Hey bookmarks and bookworms, it's Charlotte, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be going through with you all my predictions for what's going to be appearing on the 2024 International Booker Prize. This is one of my favourite prizes of the year. It features translated fiction and new releases, two of the types of books that I really prioritise in my reading. Some of the books that I'm going to be talking about today I have read, some of them I haven't, some of them I have tried and DNF'd. And so this is not a wish list of what I hope to see on the list, but a true predictions of what I believe the amazing judges that have been chosen to judge the prize this year will be looking at and looking for. A lot of relevant themes for modern times, also prominent authors and translators that I feel are going to get some recognition this year. When I saw who was judging this year's prize and also their resumes, I was so impressed, more so than any other judging panel I've seen so far this year. It's going to be a real treat to see the collection of books that this particular judging panel picks. So I have 13 books to talk to you about today. I'm going to give a brief summary and then also explain why I believe they're going to be chosen. But first of all, let's roll the intro. So first up, published last August, this is Pink Slime. This follows a young woman living in a coastal town in an unnamed country, on the cusp of environmental collapse. The only food anyone can afford is this pink slime made of this unknown substance. This novel is exploring the place where love, responsibility and self-preservation converge. Now, why I've picked this for my predictions list is that this is including very on-trend themes of motherhood and climate change. Motherhood featured a lot in the 2023 International Booker Prize longlist, and so will we have a repeat of that? Climate change books as well are featuring more and more on book prize longlists, and so I feel like this one, combining both, is in for a real shot at this year's longlist. Next up, published in October, this is Kabogo. Set in a Rwandan village, this is focusing on the insidious legacy left by Christianity. Now, why I put this onto my predictions list, this is by a prominent French Rwandan author who has already won a PEN Award, which, for those of you who don't know, is an award for outstanding literary quality. Next up, published last June, this is Fingerbone, and this is about the futility of armed conflict. Set in 1942 Papua New Guinea, this slim little novella is exploring the unrelenting bleakness of war. Now, whilst that doesn't particularly sound massively engaging, and this is actually a DNF for me when I personally read it a few months ago, I feel this book choice cannot be overlooked for this year's longlist because it is by famed author Takahashi and is said to be a masterpiece of Japanese war fiction. Next up is Ultramarine, that was also published in June last year. This is a piece of magical realism that's really pushing at the edges of that narrative genre, and typically magical realism is very well represented in terms of translated fiction and therefore also by the International Booker Prize. Narrated by the only female on board a transatlantic ship. She is the captain, no less. This book is focusing on the fears, strengths and insecurities of female authority and leadership. This is a really interesting sounding premise and also has that high literary quality to it that I think is going to appeal to the judges this year as well. Sticking with the high literary quality theme, this is Austral. This is stylistically an incredibly accomplished novel. Imagine a Russian nesting doll where we have stories sitting within stories within stories. I will not even try to describe the plot of this because having tried to read it and also having read reviews by people who have read it, this book is incredibly hard to define and understand. It requires a lot of mental capacity and time and effort on the part of the reader, but the International Book Prize does not shy away from these abstract, high literary works. Another reason why I think it's going to make this list is because it is translated by none other than Megan McDowell, an incredibly celebrated and successful translator. Whenever she translates a piece of fiction, you better be paying attention because she for sure is a contender for this year's prize. The next book I think is going to be nominated for this year's Booker Prize is Another Person. Now, whilst this is not going to be for everybody because it has depictions of essay and gaslighting, this is considered to be part of the new wave of feminism that is currently on the rise in South Korea. And as the prize is celebrating all languages and all regions of the world, I think the fact that this is contextually appropriate and significant to South Korea right now can't be overlooked, as well as the fact that it has on-trend themes as it confronts sexism and abuse on university campuses. The next two novels I'm going to talk to you about, I am incredibly excited about. I have finished them both and I absolutely loved them both. They were both some of the best books I've read so far this year. I am really hoping they get on the long list because I want more people to read them so I can talk to them about this book. The first one being published by Europa Editions is Kids Run the Show. Now, this feels incredibly culturally appropriate right now because this is the story of family vloggers whose child is kidnapped. In the age where everybody broadcasts their children on social media, I feel like this is a really timely story and a topic that must be discussed for the protection of children whose parents potentially aren't aware of just how damaging and just how long-lasting the impact of putting your children online is. The idea of using your children not only for profit, but to satisfy your needs for validation as a parent. In an age where the vast majority of people, to some degree or other, post images and videos of their children on social media and YouTube, I feel like this book would be one of the best books to be nominated this year, just to open up a discussion and to open up potentially ignorant parents' minds to exactly what they're doing to their children. This book really does present the information in a compelling and easily digestible way. This isn't just about the obvious reason why people wouldn't put their children on the internet, like paedophiles and people with nefarious intent towards your children. This is presenting a more nuanced conversation than just that. Yes, it obviously includes that because it is prolific, but also it's to do with the child's mental health, the adult's mental health, and the family dynamics and abuse and power relationships that are now systemic in an environment where everybody, more or less, posts their children online. The second book that I have read and loved this year that I want to promote and I want to be on this list is Foul Eulogies. This is an absurd fairy tale-like story of Paula, who inherits a chicken farm from her parents and starts writing eulogies for the chickens on the farm before she kills them and sells them at the market. This idea of helping the chickens to self-actualize their death goes down a treat at the local farmers market and means that her business booms as everybody wants to buy their chicken who has had a personalized eulogy written for them by the farmer. This was told by a compelling protagonist, and the writing of this, the style of this writing really suits me as a reader, and so if you typically like books that I also like, then I strongly recommend you pick this up. It was an absolute treat to start the year with. Being published last July, I also think Neonia Nippen has a strong chance of being on this year's Booker Prize longlist, because this is written by the husband of Miyoko Kawakami. Not only is it his English language debut, it is also thematically relevant to today. A darkly ironic study of toxic masculinity. This is for fans of Breasts and Eggs and also Earthlings, which I think is significant in that both of these novels have been longlisted for this prize before. Okay, over halfway through this list, I also think that Out of Earth is going to be nominated for this year's longlist. We follow 4 generations of women as they navigate the hardships of life in Brazil. Male figures are on the periphery of this novel, but they are also the origin of much of the suffering that takes place in this book. This is a modernist fable that has been compared to the work of Emma McBride's A Girl is a Half-Born Thing. Why I feel so strongly that this is going to be nominated for the prize this year is because this is a groundbreaking, feminist, multi-award-winning Brazilian novel being translated into English for the first time. I also think Aiden by Linnea Axelsson is going to be nominated for this year's International Booker. We are reading this as part of my book club for February and March, so if you haven't joined and you would like to read this book, the sign-up link is always in the description via my Ko-fi page. The book club runs every month, so for March we'll be reading Aidan, and then for April we're going to be reading Clear by Keris Davies, who is eligible for the Women's Prize, so who knows, we may be reading back-to-back book prize nominated books in my book club for the next couple of months. This is a novel told in verse and is exploring Sami culture through two families as they migrate through northern Scandinavia over the course of a century of violence, colonial trauma, migration, and environmental change. Also, I would really like one of my favourite books that I read last year to be nominated for this year's prize. This is The City of the Living by Nicola Lagiola. I will leave my best books of 2023 linked down below so you can hear my full thoughts on this brilliant novel. I know many of you have picked up The City of the Living already on the back of my recommendation and have loved it, so I am really hoping that this novel gets even more coverage by being nominated for this year's prize. A last minute entry to this list is Fury, a Novel by Cleo Mendoza. This is a debut novel by a young, award-winning novelist from Mexico, weaving together multiple narratives into a lyrical, shape-shifting existential novel on love, violence, and the power of myth. I have been really getting into myths, legends, fables recently, and so I absolutely love the sound of this. I will be picking up this book very soon anyway, regardless of whether it's nominated, but it would be great to see it nominated and get to hear everybody else's opinions and see this book discussed more widely. I think this is also the only Mexican author on my long list that I've predicted. Before I go though, it feels wrong to not talk about Fitz Coraldo as a publishing house that usually dominates at least the last couple of years of the International Booker Prize. They've had 2 or 3 nominations, and so there are a lot of eligible Fitz Coraldo editions titles this year, some of which I want to highlight are Jon Fosse has another novel out, as does Agustin Fernandez Malo. The Possessed is also a Fitz Coraldo novel that is eligible. I read this back for Women in Translation Month last August and I absolutely loved it, so I'll be thrilled to see this longlisted. And also one of my absolute favourite authors, Matthias Arnaud, has a new novel that is also eligible. There will be, I'm sure, at least 1 or 2 Fitz Coraldos on the list this year, it just depends on which. Another favourite author of mine, Selva Almada, is also eligible for this year's long list, and she is being published by another publishing house that is no stranger to the International Booker Prize, and this is Charco Press. So I shall be thrilled to see any of the Fitz Coraldos and Selva Almada, Matthias Arnaud on the long list this year. I believe the long list is being announced on the 11th of March. I cannot wait for that. That means we have less than 2 weeks to go before we're going to have a fresh batch of translated fiction books to rummage our way through. This is one of my favourite prizes of the year. I'm also doing a reading vlog this month in February for my members. If you sign up on my Ko-fi page, which is linked down below, you will get access to extra videos per month by me, one of which this month will be this reading vlog where I'm going to be reading eligible books for both the Women's Prize and the International Booker Prize to try and get a head start on my reading. So I have about 8 books for that video that I've read, and that video will be coming out within the next 24 hours. So if you would like to sign up for access to that video and my other extra videos, one of which is my monthly reading wrap-up, then the sign up link is in the description box below via the Ko-fi website, which is very similar to Patreon if you know how Patreon works. Other than that, I shall see you guys very soon when I react to the long list announcement on the 11th of March. Or if you're sticking around for the Women's Prize content, I will be doing my live reaction to the Women's Prize longlist announcement on the 5th of March, I believe. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more content from me, and I shall see you very soon in my next video. Bye, guys.